What's up, everyone? Matt Gajewski here, back again with the Odd Shopper channel. Today, we're talking some college football week 9 action, the Friday slate. We've got 3 games. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. If you've done that, thank you. It helps us a lot. We're also brought to you by Bet365, and they have a deal for those of you in Kentucky, Ohio, New Jersey, Virginia, Iowa, Colorado, Louisiana, Indiana, Arizona, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. What you'll do is click the link below, make your first deposit. At $5 in any game could be a side or a total. Whether it wins or loses, you are getting $200 in the form of bonus bets. You must be 21 or older to play, 18 in Kentucky. If you or somebody you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. Bring you behind the glass. This is our live on screen at Odd Shopper. 3 games, 3 pretty good games, and the game of the year in the G5. So can't be more excited. This is vastly different from the horrible Conference USA slate we've had on Tuesday and Wednesday. Get a real treat tonight. First up is Louisville taking on Boston College. I took Louisville minus a 6.5 just right away. I think that is a fine number. 7, I'm a little less interested in, but I would play it if you really want action in this game. The total in the game is sitting at 53. So Louisville on the road. I think this is a decent spot for them as a buy low. They're coming off a loss to Miami, which was pretty close and just a wild back and forth game. 52-45. SMU was their most recent loss. Other than that, 34-27. Notre Dame, 31-24. So this team is coming into this game with a 4-3 record. Their 3 losses are to Notre Dame, SMU, and Miami. Now, they do have a couple close wins. They beat Georgia Tech 31-19 in a game that should have been closer. Georgia Tech can't make field goals and extra points. And then they beat Louisville 24-20. So it hasn't been all roses, but this has been a tough schedule for Louisville so far this year. And they're still pretty solid if you look at efficiency metrics. They're 15th overall, 14th on offense, and 32nd on defense. The only place they have a pretty bad weakness, I would say, is coverage, where they're 101st, and you're facing Tom Castellanos, who's not the best thrower of the ball. More on that later. The only other problem is maybe offensive line. They're 85th in pass blocking, and I bring that up because they did lose Monroe Mills, their left tackle, which has been something that has at least caused problems for them lately. Still, Tyler Shugg has been pretty efficient so far this year. He has a 63% completion for over 8.5 yards per attempt. 18 touchdowns, just 3 picks, and he only has 4 turnover-worthy plays, so he has been awesome for this team. And he is semi-mobile, so he navigates pressure. More sacks have gotten home since Monroe Mills went down, which is not – I mean, he has -8 rushing yards now, but he's still doing quite a bit to just mitigate pressure on his own. He's been fine. And then you face a Boston College defense, which themselves ranks 30th overall. They're a little more balanced than Louisville, but they're still 53rd in coverage. I think their best unit is their pass rush, despite coming in 74th. They have one of the best pass rushers in the country, which maybe is something they can exploit against Louisville. I'm not entirely sure. But ultimately, efficiency metrics aside, just what this team has put on what they've actually put on the field recently has been a big problem for me. 9.1 yards per attempt to Kyron Jones, 14.8 yards per carry to Bayshul Tootin. Colandrea and Virginia got them for average play. Prior to that, the quarterbacks they face have been pretty bad, like DJ Uiagalelei. They played Duquesne. Brady Cook got him for 8.8, and then they played Aiden Childs in Michigan State. That was kind of a mess. In Western Kentucky, it has been a pretty easy slate of opponents for this team. Vastly different level of competition in comparison to what this Louisville team has faced. So I do think they allow production, and I'm not sure it's just going to stop at Shugg. Great receivers, Ja'Cory Brooks, Colin Lacey. Brown has been kind of a revelation at running back for this team. He's doing fine in the toughest matchups. Even against Miami, he had a productive day. So I think you do have Louisville with the ability to score here, even on the road. Conversely, Boston College, I don't know what to make of this team. I think some of it is coaching. They've played wildly conservative, and they're not a team that's just good enough to sit on a lead. I mean, we just talked about their defense. They'll definitely let you back into games, and they've done that multiple times now. They just got blown out by Virginia Tech, but prior to that, they had a game against Virginia, which they at least had a lead in, and they ended up giving it up and losing by 10 points. I mean, this team is not completely healthy, especially on defense. They lost their best corner, Amari Jackson, another reason why you would think there should be passing success for Shug in Louisville. But they've been without Jalen Cheek and Cole Batson. Cam Arnold, one of their linebackers, got injured in the game, and they also didn't have a defensive tackle, Sedarius McConnell. So this unit is pretty weak. Anyway, we were talking about the offense. Castellanos, he has a 66.5% completion for 9.4 yards per attempt, but he's a little more dicey than a guy like Shug. 7 turnover-worthy plays, he has 4 interceptions. He's not running as much this year, 161 on the ground for 2.2 yards per carry. The O-line here is better. They're 30th in pass blocking, 14th in run blocking. But I also think Louisville's defense is better than what Boston College has. Louisville's 32nd overall. They're really good at defending the run. 15th overall. The strength of this team by far is their defensive line. And that extends to pass rush with Gelati, who's been awesome off the edge for this group. It's basically, can you cover? And Louisville's had a ton of injuries in their secondary throughout the year. Most of these players are back. The only guy who's still gone is Devin Neal, and he was a portal loss, a guy who was just a depth piece anyway. So now they're healthier. And, they played Cam Ward. He's going to get you. Kevin Jennings is going to get you. Prior to that, they weren't healthy. Colin Dre was only at 6.2 yards per attempt. I kind of think Louisville has not actually put their best foot forward in some of these games because of injuries. So I'm interested in them at a 7. If you see a 6.5, that's what I played, and I would play that again. Our second game is Boise State traveling down to Vegas, playing UNLV in the game of the G5. Boise's a 3-point favorite on the road. The total in this game is 65 points, which is down a little bit. But whoever wins this game has the inside track to the playoff. The AAC is a horrible conference. Conference USA is horrible. The MAC is horrible. And the Sun Belt is they're cannibalizing each other right now. So you're just kind of running out of options in the G5. And whoever wins this conference is going to have by far the most difficult strength of schedule. And it largely comes down to these two teams. But anyway, to get into it, Boise State is the one loss this year, was to Oregon, one that was widely expected. Their level of competition has been fairly low outside of that. They played Georgia Southern in a game that was closer than it should have been, 56-45. FCS Portland State, they beat Washington State 45-24. Utah State 62-30. Hawaii 28-7. I mean, there's one team in the top 100 really among that group outside of Oregon, and it's Washington State. This is a very easy schedule. UNLV, on the other hand, it's a little bit better. They played Houston, who we've now learned is not great, but still. P4 opponent. They beat Kansas in a game where they had a 13% post-game win expectancy, but don't worry, they gave that right back by losing to Syracuse when they had a 75% post-game win expectancy. But otherwise, they played Fresno, they played Oregon State. These are better teams than what Boise's faced this year, and they come out 6-1. The big worry I have with Boise's on defense. When you look at what this team has allowed to opponents, let's exclude Dylan Gabriel. He's going to batter you no matter what. 8.8 yards per attempt to John Mateer, 9.1 yards per attempt to Spencer Petras of Utah State. Both of those marks are way above their season averages, even 7.3 yards per attempt to Braden Shager. You look at the UNLV offense and Haj Malik Williams, although he's playing through just a small sample right now, 70% completion, 9.5 yards per attempt, only 4 turnover-worthy plays. He has excellent mobility, 6.4 yards per carry on the ground. The O-line is very good, keeping him upright, 51st in pass blocking, 19th in run blocking. A depth of options at running back. He's an NFL receiver in Ricky White, a solid gadget player in Jacob DeJesus. If you're allowing 9.1 yards per attempt to Spencer Petras, I mean, I don't have any doubts that Haj Malik Williams is going to have this offense humming and scoring points on this weak Boise defense. And just for some extra numbers, Boise 68th in total defense, 101st against the run. Good luck against UNLV. Somehow they're 41st in coverage. This doesn't make sense to me, despite them allowing 9.1 yards per attempt to Petras. But anyway, fully expect UNLV to move the ball here. And then on offense, Boise has Genty. We know this. UNLV 76th in run defense. Genty is going to ball out. There's no getting around this. Can you stop him enough to potentially win this game? That's the real question, because this defense for UNLV is solid. They're 26th overall. They're kind of built like a barbell where they're awesome in coverage and weak in run defense. And obviously they added a ton of guys this offseason in the portal, like Catalan in the secondary, who have been elite for this team. if UNLV gets the opening kickoff and forces Boise to throw more than they want to, this could get disastrous. I mean, Maddox Madsen has 7 turnover-worthy plays. Only 2 have been converted to interceptions. They're not throwing the ball very often. So having 7 turnover-worthy plays on a the 45% pass rate is not good for this team. The O-line is worse. They've had injuries on this unit. 2 of their starters have been out for a while now. They're 66th in pass blocking, 30th in run blocking. I think that would be much worse if they had played more competent teams, but they haven't. And then you don't have anything other than Genty on offense, really, to get it going. Bad foundation with your O-line. What Genty has done behind this unit, he is very deserving of the Heisman. I think it's fully between him and Travis Hunter because, wow, this unit has not been good. So, yeah, I mean, it's basically, can one man beat you in Genty? And he's been able to do that. So it's risky, but, man, UNLV is the more complete team on both sides of the ball, in my opinion. I took a +3.5. I think a +3 is fine. If you wanted to sprinkle money line stuff, I would have no issues with that either. Our last game up is Rutgers and USC. Rutgers has to travel across the country on a short week. They've been a complete mess. The total, if you're interested in this game, is 56, which is a bit high, in my opinion, for these two teams. Rutgers is 70th in pace. USC is 61st. The problem is both have been sieves on defense, especially lately. So to get into this, Rutgers, I think some of their problems have been injury, especially on defense. They weren't a deep unit. But Wesley Bailey's been missing more time. Aaron Lewis has been missing time. Those are 2 edge defenders. They still haven't gotten back Torrey. And then on offense, they've also lost some skill players. Both tight ends, Kanaka and Fletcher, have been out. They lost Sam Brown. And then they were down at guard, Bryce Felter. So with those injuries, they now have dropped games to Nebraska 14-7, Wisconsin 42-7, and UCLA 35-32. They allowed UCLA to score 35 points. This is alarming. That was UCLA traveling to Piscataway or wherever they play all the way across the country. Now Rutgers has to make that same trip back out to LA to face USC, who's coming off 3 straight losses themselves, but far more respectable. Minnesota 24-17, Penn State 33-30. They fully had that game, should have won, as well as their most recent game, Maryland 29-28. So to get into this, Rutgers, they have a better foundation overall in offense. They're still 4th in run blocking, 67th in pass blocking. The problem is when they get down in games, Kaliak-Manis in this past game cannot bring them back. They're fully stone dead once they're down, like Iowa. It's exactly like the same situation. 53% completion percentage. He has 8 turnover-worthy plays. Their pass rate's super low. The O-line is much better run blocking than pass blocking. So when this team is down in games, it's just stone dead. Your game's over. Defense is really weak right now, and I don't see this getting any better unless they get back to full strength. They just don't have the depth to actually play in this conference. When they were at full strength, they were awesome, but you can't play with 4 backups if you're Rutgers. You just don't recruit well enough. 8.5 yards per attempt to Will Rogers, 8.6 to Braden Locke, 10.1 to Ethan Garbers. Miller Moss should do whatever he wants, really. On the other side, let's talk about that. 64.5% completion for Miller Moss, 6.9 yards per attempt. He's not throwing as much downfield, but 9 turnover-worthy plays, 6 have been converted to interceptions. This O-line is terrible. The problem is I just don't think Rutgers exploits this anymore with their injuries. Their top 2 edges are hurt right now. So, yeah, they're 28th on the year. They just missed their top 2 edges in the last game. So being 126th in pass blocking, 119th in run blocking, this is not an edge Rutgers likely exploits as well as they usually do unless they return. So watch late news. But even so, they've been able to overcome the O-line in some spots because their skill players are so good. They're getting excellent play out of Woody Marks. Their receivers are very good. And their defense hasn't been as bad as some people suggest. They're 106th in pass rush, 89th against the run, 23rd in coverage. Teams will run it down USC's throat, but that has been situational. And I don't know what some of these OCs are doing. I fully thought Penn State should have taken this approach. Maryland can't really do that. They're one of the teams on the schedule that's terrible on the O-line and can't run, but somehow they still won. Minnesota had decent success doing that, and then Wisconsin and Michigan obviously were able to run on this team. Hypothetically, Rutgers should be able to do this, but they cannot get down in the game. It's, again, if they're down, they're stone dead. As you can see, I don't have a lot of interest in betting this game. If I did, it would probably be on the Rutgers side, but I cannot play this team with their health, just not knowing what's up with a lot of their starters on defense and the points they've been hemorrhaging So that one will be a pass, but hopefully we gave you some good plays before then. On Louisville, minus a 6.5, a 7 is okay. On a UNLV plus a 3.5, that's still out there. Juice is okay. But we'll be back for Saturday, best bets. The full slate is already out on Betting You, myself, and Ben Raza. Check that out. If there's anything you'd like to say in the comments, feel free, or reach out to me on Twitter at @_Gajewski. Until next time, good luck. We'll see you later.